Hi boys and girls, welcome back to art class. I'm Miss Davis and you're watching HeArt Teaching. Sadly, I didn't get to put out a new video in August. I was busy preparing for my convention season, but we've got a new project that we can do today. Now it's the month of September, which means fall is finally starting. The trees in my yard are already starting to change colors and drop their leaves, and they always turn these kind of warm, reddish, brown, maybe orange or yellow colors, and those are called warm colors. So we're going to use our warm colors today. We're also going to use something called contrast. Now, contrast is when you have two opposites next to each other. When you have two opposite things next to each other, they make each other stand out. For example, in this pumpkin that we're going to do, we've got size. So we've got some big size polka dots and some little size polka dots. And when you have them together, they make each other stand out. We've also got two different kinds of shapes. We've got geometric shapes like the circle here, which we can calculate using math or geometry. And we've also got sort of an abstract shape here, which is just a little bit harder to calculate using math. And we call these organic shapes. These are shapes found in nature. I chose the shape of a leaf because we find a leaf in nature. Some other organic shapes would be the shape of your hand. Okay, you're an organic creature. The shape of a tree, anything you can find outside that's kind of irregular and doesn't really fall in the category of circle, square, triangle, hexagon, all of those geometric shapes. Any of the other shapes are called organic shapes. So we've got a contrast between geometric shapes and organic shapes. One last contrast we have in our picture today is dark and light. We are only going to use a light colored piece of paper or a colored piece of paper. We're going to try to pick the warm colors, so red, orange, or yellow if you have it. White is fine if you don't. And we're going to contrast that with some black. So we've got dark and light. And when they're together, okay, they kind of make each other stand out. So we've got contrast in dark and light. We've got contrast in size of the polka dots, and we've got contrast in the different kinds of shapes that we have. All right, let's get started. So first we've got a famous artist to talk about. Now this is a Japanese lady named Yayoi Kusama. Let's say her name together. Ready? Yayoi Kusama. And she has been doing art since she was a young lady, but she's a little bit older now. And she's another one of those artists who like to be really eccentric and kind of wild and bold. So you can see her here with her funky red wig. She's pictured with her red wig a lot. And this is one of her pumpkins. And she is very well known for using polka dots in her art. And she is well known for using pumpkins in her art. So let's take a look at some of her artworks. All right, so here is one of her pumpkins. They're usually yellow, and they feature her signature polka dots. And this one is outside, kind of on a pier or a beach. And I believe this was one of her artworks that was recently damaged in one of the hurricanes. Next, we have something along the lines of what we're going to draw. So here she has her pumpkin kind of contrasted against a dark background. She's got contrast in her different size of polka dots. And she's also got a contrast between the polka dot shape and her background shape. Her background's a little more abstract and organic. So she does use some contrast. And she is also famous for her infinity rooms. So if you take a look at this is actually a room filled with pumpkins, but the room is fairly small. So I want you to see if you can figure out what is going on in this room to make this room look like it extends into the abyss forever. Okay, if this room is kind of small, what is going on? Why can we see pumpkins forever and ever? Okay, it's called the infinity room, first of all, because we can see into infinity. Okay, these pumpkins are reflective forever. Okay, so if they're reflective, what do you think's going on with the walls and the ceiling here? All right, so the walls and the ceiling and even the floors have mirrors on them. And when you go into one of Kusama's infinity rooms, There's a little path that you walk on, so you kind of walk out into the room, and you're not allowed to touch anything, but you can see the pumpkins kind of extending out forever into infinity because those mirrors just keep reflecting those pumpkins over and over and over again. And we have one of these in Arkansas. It's not exactly the same. Let's look at a few more pictures first of this pumpkin infinity room. So here's another view of the infinity room. As you can see, it still extends back as far as you can see because of those mirrors. Okay, and this one shows the path you can kind of walk out on, so you can be kind of in this room surrounded by these infinite number of pumpkins. All right, here's one more view. And that is just so cool. Those mirrors just reflect those pumpkins forever and ever away from you. And that's why it's called the infinity room. It looks like there's infinity pumpkins. Oh, I also have this one picture here I wanted to show you of this lady kind of sitting inside one of these rooms, so you can kind of see what people look like when they go into these rooms compared to these pumpkins, contrasted with these pumpkins. All right, if you live in Arkansas or somewhere around Fayetteville, Arkansas, you can actually see one of Kusama's infinity rooms. There is a museum, an art museum called Crystal Bridges. Okay, and you can look that up online. And we actually have an infinity room by Kusama at Crystal Bridges. So if you want to visit an art gallery to see one of her really cool infinity rooms, you should go and take a look at this one at Crystal Bridges Art Museum. Okay, there's another version of it. And I do believe these balls change colors. Okay, so they're just kind of like cycling through colors. Okay, there's another view of them. Look how cool. Wouldn't you just love to walk out into this infinity room and see these colorful balls kind of extending out into infinity all around you? That would be so neat. In fact, I have my own trip booked. I'm going to go see these infinity rooms. All right, there's somebody standing in the middle of this infinity room located at Crystal Bridges. So you can kind of see what a person would look like walking out into the abyss. All right, so we are going to create a Yayoi Kusama pumpkin using her famous polka dots. So let's get started. Okay, so all you're going to need for your pumpkin is a pencil to draw with, something to erase our mistakes with, and then we are going to trace it all with a black permanent marker or just a black Crayola marker if that's all you've got. And we're just going to make this kind of a black and white or a black and paper color drawing. So you will need some kind of colored paper, or I like to use colored paper. And if you get colored paper, we're going to use the warm colors because it's fall. So if you remember, the warm colors are red, orange, and yellow. Those are the colors that make us think of fire and the sun, and they make us feel very comfortable and cozy and warm, maybe kind of excited. And we see a lot of these warm colors around fall. So since we're doing a Yayoi Kusama pumpkin for a fall project, we're going to use a warm color piece of paper. White is fine if that's all you've got, but I want to encourage you to use your warm colors. Okay, so first we're going to need our pencil. All right, so let's start with the top of the stem. So near the top of your paper, we're going to draw kind of a skinny oval, okay, going in the horizontal direction, the left-right direction. And then we are going to add a skirt to this. So start on the side of the oval, and we're going to go down first and kind of curve out just a little bit towards the end. Okay, and that way it kind of looks like a skirt flowing out. And for the bottom of the stem, we're kind of looking down at it. So we're going to draw it kind of wrapping around the bottom of the skirt. So let's start a little higher on the skirt. And we're going to come out and go around without touching the stem or without touching the skirt. And we're going to end behind it as well. So now it looks like we're looking down into the stem. What we're doing is we're just going to draw the top of a pumpkin here. So let's start underneath this stem here. And we are going to draw what looks like parentheses. So these two lines are going to be the center section of the pumpkin. Okay, so we're going to curve out first. And you can just touch the bottom of your paper with this. You don't have to come in too far. Okay, out. And notice how we're going away from the center, okay? So we're curving out away from the center. And that's going to be very important later when we go to do our polka dots. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another one from the side of the stem. Okay, and we're just going to curve out again. And we want this one to go ahead and touch the bottom of the paper. So this is the second section of the pumpkin, second and third. And we don't have much more room for another section. So what we're going to do is on this next section, we're going to come out and we're going to end on the sides of the paper. Okay, so we are still right here on the bottom oval. Okay, this time though, we're going to go up a little bit. We're going to make what looks like a hill. So we're going to go up and then down, and it's going to touch the side of the paper. So let's do it again. Up and down. All right, so now it's touching the side of the paper. The only thing we have left to do is the back two sections. What we're going to do is we're going to start a little higher on the stem here. Okay, we don't want to go up too high over the top here. What we're going to do is we're going to start a little bit below that first oval. Okay, and we're going to make another hill, and this hill is going to go behind, okay, this other section here that we just drew. So instead of going all the way to the edge or ending on the top, we are going to draw a hill, okay, that stops a little short and it kind of goes behind this section here. All right, so let's do that on the other side. We're going to start a little higher on the stem here. We're going to go up and make a hill, and we're not going to go all the way to the side of the paper. It's going to kind of wrap around the back of the pumpkin and look like it's going behind these other sections. All right, so that's it on the drawing. Let's trace it with our permanent marker. And then we're going to erase any pencil lines that show through. Now we're ready to make our Kusama polka dots. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the big polka dots, and we're just going to make one line of big polka dots in this section, kind of going down the middle. As we get further away from the center, our lines of polka dots are going to get a little smaller and a little smaller and a little smaller. Then we'll do something just a little bit different on these side ones, okay? So let's just focus on this middle one. Okay, let's make some nice big polka dots. And you need them to be small enough to make a line of them, but these are still going to be the biggest polka dots we have. And just use your black marker. Okay, and we're just going to make them the best we can. And remember that nobody's perfect, so it's okay if you do a little mess up. I can't fix it if it's marker, but that's okay because we're learning for next time. We're learning for our next artwork. Kind of honing those motor skills in our hands. All right, so I've got one big line of big polka dots. Now I'm going to go down the side on both sides with some smaller polka dots. And we're just going to make a line of it. Maybe I'll make these a little bit bigger. See, I messed up too. That's okay. Okay, and there's no really pattern to this or anything. We're just going to make a line of dots all the same size on both sides. And it can be a little half dot if you run into the edge here. That's okay. We're going to do some half dots later too. All right, we need another line on this side because we're kind of building out from the middle. This line is going to have the same size polka dots as the last line we did. Okay, and then we're going to make them a little bit smaller. So coming out, I'm just going to kind of dot. Now this is a big dot and we need room for a little dot too. Okay, so I'm just kind of pressing down with my marker a little bit. These polka dots are a little smaller than the last line, but they're not going to be the smallest. We've still got some room. Okay, so on the next line, we may need to fill with a couple of the same size dots, a couple of lines of the same size dots, but that's okay. So I'm going to make some little dots here, just as small as you can with a marker. The markers usually have kind of a broad tip, and that's okay. We're just going to do our best to make these kind of small. Okay, and if you can add one more line and see if you can get them even smaller. All right, let's do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so we're making these dots as small as we can, making a line all the way down to the bottom. And we're still going to have room on this side for it looks like one or two more lines of dots. So we'll see just how small we can get these dots. Ready? I'm going to start down a little lower because there's not a lot of room here. Dot, 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 dot. Trying to make these just as small as I can with my broad-tipped marker. And I've got a little more room, so I'll see if I can make some even smaller. And just do your best. As long as you've got some polka dots in different sizes, it'll look like Yayoi Kusama. Okay, so we are going to do this a little bit differently on the other sections. So instead of putting the big row of dots down the middle, we're going to put it down this side. And that's going to make it look like there's a little shadow kind of in between your pumpkin sections. In fact, if you take a look at Yayoi Kusama's pumpkin, she does little half dots sometimes. So I think I'll do that. I'll do a few half dots, kind of going down the side here. Oh, and I didn't have a lot of room here, so I just did the top of one. And I'll do that over here too, so we can do both sections at once. And remember, nobody's perfect, so it's okay if they don't line up perfectly. It's going to look really cool when we're done, even if it's not perfect. Okay, so building out from the center, we're going to make a line of dots that's a little bit smaller than that. So I'm going to go ahead and make them about this size. And I'm going to try to curve them with the pumpkin here. No need to try and be perfect with these circles. Okay, I'm going to do the top of a dot down here, so it's just kind of filled in. And let's do it again on this side. Try to make them about the same size so it looks uniform. Try to curve this line with the shape of the pumpkin section. Alright. They're not exactly the same size, but that's okay. Alright, so let's make a line of dots that's a little bit smaller. And remember, we're still going to try to curve. I'm going to kind of follow this line here. Okay, same size if you can on this side. All right, now it's time to start making them pretty small. So I'm going to go ahead and make these just by touching the paper. Okay, I'm going to make them as big as I can with just touching the paper. All right, I'm going to make make another line of that same size dot. So it's okay if you have a couple of lines with the same size. As long as they are gradually getting a little smaller, moving out towards the outside shape or the outside line, it'll be okay. Sometimes we need to do this just to fill the space. All right, let's do it on the other side. So I'm just touching my paper for these dots. I'm going to do one more line of this same size so that I don't have too much space to fill with my teeny tiny dots. That takes a lot of time when your dots get that small to fill a lot of space, and we don't want to spend too much time on it. We don't want to waste our time. Okay, so let's make a row of dots just as small as you can. Small row of dots. And so I'm just not touching my paper for very long, just kind of getting that tip to kind of touch the paper. To kind of get the ink out of the tip there. Okay. Same thing on the other side. Just a quick touch. Right, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the smallest dot, maybe a couple rows of it. So just barely let your pen touch the paper. Very tiny dots. Remember to curve it with the shape of the pumpkin section. And I'm going to do another row of them. Right. This is fun. Okay, so 2 rows of the smallest dots that I can get out of this marker here. And I'll be done with my first 2 side sections. All right, so the next 2 sections are easy because now you know what to do. I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video for these 2 sections, and you go ahead and do them the way you learned how on these 2 sections. These 2 sections are just a little bit harder. Not too bad, but I'll get back with you guys when I get to these 2 sections, okay? Okay, so the top 2 sections aren't too hard, but basically we still want these half dots to be right here, kind of next to the last section we worked on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do our half dots along this line right here. Again, like I said, it's not too hard. I just kind of wanted to make sure you knew which line to put your half dots on. Okay. And then we want our medium-sized dots. And there's not too much room in this section, so we're going to need to make our dot lines much smaller, much faster. Okay, so you may only have about 3 or 4 lines. I'm going to go ahead and put some teeny tiny dots just along the edge here where I can fit them. And we're done. All right, go ahead and do your other section, and then we're going to work on an abstract background. Yayoi Kusama was famous for doing her polka dots and then contrasting them against an abstract background. So contrast means that 2 things are so different they make each other stand out. So you can have contrasting colors. Black and white are actually opposite colors. Okay, they represent dark and light, and they contrast. They're so different from each other that they make each other stand out when they're together. If you look at a color wheel, blue and orange are on opposite sides of the color wheel from each other, and they're called opposite colors. So if you have blue and orange next to each other, they're going to make each other contrast or stand out, okay, because they're opposite colors. And just like we have opposite colors, we also have opposite shapes. So the polka dot is a geometric shape. We can calculate it using math or geometry. And abstract shapes are more organic. So we find these kind of organic shapes in nature, like the shape of a leaf, the shape of a tree, the shape of your hand. You're an organic creature. Okay, and Yayoi Kusama did kind of a crackly background, but we can do whatever kind of abstract shapes in the background that we want. And I don't know what I'll do. Maybe I will do the shape of a fall leaf. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that fall leaf shape and I'm going to repeat it all through the background, which I don't have a lot, but you may have more space up here for your background. So I'm just going to kind of draw my leaf. And I'm just going to repeat that shape over and over again. And it can hang off the paper a little bit. Okay. And you just do your best with your background, whatever kind of abstract shapes or lines you want to do in your background, that is perfectly fine. And then also to contrast against my pumpkin, I'm going to color in between my shapes black. Because there's a lot of yellow still in my pumpkin, and that black background is really going to contrast or make my pumpkin stand out. Alright, boys and girls, there is my Yayoi Kusama pumpkin. I hope you guys enjoyed making your pumpkin with me. I hope you enjoyed using your contrast between light and dark, big and small, and also geometric and organic shapes. I want to wish everybody a happy new school year. I hope you got settled in and you are happy and healthy. Make sure to social distance, make sure to wear your mask if you can, and make sure to use your Germ-X or wash your hands. And make sure, if you can, to go visit Yayoi Kusama's Infinity Room at Crystal Bridges. And remember to like and subscribe to my channel so you can become a part of my heart. I'm Miss Davis, and I will see you next time.